All right, guys, let's get started. If you've been with us throughout the day, again, we tried to put these panels together at New York Comic Con for you, more specifically than anyone else, for the fans. My name's Garrett Fuller. I work for 10tonhammer.com. We cover all of these games extensively. I'm very lucky in my job to get to talk to these guys and find out about these games and what goes into making MMOs in general. One of the things about this panel that I think is great, and probably the best thing ever, is this is a very rare group of people to get together. I usually see them all at parties. But, yeah, it's sort of slightly sober. But you actually have a chance to really ask them pretty much anything you want about MMOs. I'm going to do a very short Q&A with them in the beginning, and then I really just want to turn the microphones over to you as game players and fans to ask these guys whatever you want about MMOs in general. Okay? So I want to introduce the panel in case you haven't seen them all or met them all. Jason Stone is game designer on Age of Conan, whose game is launching, I think, very soon. Jeff Hickman from EA Mythic, Warhammer Online, and also Dark Age Camelot. Craig Alexander is really a veteran in this industry right now. He's working with Turbine on Lord of the Rings Online. And clap for Craig, too. Scott Cuthbertson, also a big veteran in this industry, who is now working at 38 Studios with Kurt Schilling and their game coming out in a few years. And one of my new friends in the MMO game space, Matt Woodward. Matt is the game designer on EVE Online. So with that, I'll ask the first question. And this is something I think we can all relate to. I like to think everyone in this room is a pretty hardcore MMO player. I know for our experience at 10 Hammer, we get to play all these games and take a look at them. But you guys really put the time and effort into discovering all the content and artwork and everything that these guys put into these games. So my question is, I think the MMO audience is maturing, getting faster, getting smarter. How are you guys dealing with this 10-year history now of MMOs that have been developed and the players that you're now facing who have experienced a lot of gameplay in that time?
Go! Okay, go ahead. Yeah. I mean, EVE Online's always catered to quite a mature player base. Our average player age is up in the 25 to 30 region, I think. It's always been a complex game, and in some ways people have said this has hindered us in the past. But as I say, with the players maturing and getting to know more stuff, and the big influx of players coming in from WoW, and then thinking that maybe they want to try something else out, maybe try something more involved, it feels like we're getting a lot of kind of people who want to move on and want to take the next step, and we're pretty well positioned to take advantage of this. So yeah, I think players are getting smarter and more mature and getting the hang of this stuff more, and I think there's a good market for more involved, more complex games out there.
I think the guys from 38 Studios said it really well when they were talking about a good mix of the familiar and the new and unique, and I think that's probably one of the biggest keys is providing players with something that they feel comfortable with, something that they can that has easy accessibility, so that you can get in and play and learn it quickly and start getting to the fun right away, but also something that has depth and something that you have to commit yourself to and learn and have skill and imagination to participate in the hobby. So I think that's going to continue to be the way that we evolve the genre.
We did say that, didn't we?
We did. That was good.
Just real quick to add to that also, we like to think also, and obviously we're the new kids on the block, so we've got several years before we come out, but yes, the audience is maturing, definitely, but also it's growing. And so while it's getting, there's definitely a lot of older players, more mature players, there's also a lot of younger players as well. So whether we want to go pure mass and hit the folks that are 8 years old all the way up to 80, I don't really think so, quite honestly. But we have to be cognizant of the fact that those people will actually be playing. So there is a delicate line there.
Yeah. I would add to that the biggest change that I see going on in the MMO space is the RuneScapes, the Maple Stories, the casual games of the world, and this is a tremendous opportunity for us as core MMO developers. Is that those are our future customers, and I think the biggest problem with MMOs to date is we just have too many barriers. We have barriers with pricing, we have barriers with client size. I mean, Lord of the Rings is guilty of it. We're almost at 10 gigabytes, and it takes forever to download these titles. We're not all on all platforms. We're not in all territories, and we're downright intimidating to a lot of players. And so, yes, I think we will continue to advance and innovate and support our elder players that we have for some time. But the only way we're going to grow and mature and produce better games is to continue to draw in additional masses into the game. And, as we march down the road of reducing barriers and making these worlds more familiar and interesting to people, I think we'll all be better off.
I just want to echo what you said and say that I think the biggest way that players have matured really is that, looking back at the earlier MMOs and whatnot that inspired us all, it's getting a lot harder for us because the expectations of that growing, the growing player base and whatnot have gotten higher and higher. And, when we were dealing with only making games for like the really hardcore, like how outcast we were when we played the first MMOs at home at night, as college kids and stuff like that. It's like now it's much more mass market. We need to appeal to a lot more people, and that has definitely made it harder because you can't sneak by with some of the things you might have been able to in the past.
And so as a result, production values need to grow enormously. When I started building MMOs, I built a game called The Realm in 1996. We had about 10,000 players. And so I think today it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 20 to 30 million players on MMOs, which are broadly defined, and that definition keeps changing as the virtual worlds and the like come into the space. So we're going to need to adapt to that and really become a mainstream medium, and we're becoming more mainstream for even gaming as well.
That's great. The next question that I think everyone in this room hates, including me. However, I'm remiss if I don't ask it. It deals with subscription and microtransaction models of payment from your players. This has been a huge debate in the MMO community lately. Is microtransactions or subscription based? So I'm just going to say microtransaction and subscription based, and let you guys make of it what you want.
Start. The first is that I don't think it's an either or. I think we should be doing all of them. We as an industry, as I talked about barriers, are pretty bad at not offering flexible pricing to our customers. And just about every other form of media does this, whether it be satellite or cable television, whether it be a phone company or not, all have various tiers of service, a la carte pricing, a free component, a premium subscription component, and we should be no different. And as we evolve our products, we should develop pricing plans that sort of match the experience that people want. Obviously, the people that are the most hardcore, for example, for Lord of the Rings Online, we have a lifetime subscription. So you can pay $200, $300 and be in the game forever. Likewise, those people that just want to consume short pieces of content, maybe they should bill out hourly or have item-based transactional approaches that are very popular in Asia and some of the casual games as well. And so, if we can come up with pricing that adheres to whatever the tastes of our customers are, I think as an industry we'll be better off.
I think you hit that. The key is the taste of our customers. I think the challenge that we face as developers, especially in North America and Europe, is that our players don't necessarily like different models, or they think they don't like different models, and we need to introduce them to other forms of payment. We need to give them the option and the opportunity, like Craig said, to pay the way that they feel comfortable paying, and to make the games easy to access, whether they're free or whether they're a microtransaction model or a subscription model. We just need to get that to be accepted. When you go over to Asia, it's very accepted. There's lots of different models that are used over in Asia, and nobody has a problem with it yet. North America and Europe really push back on that. So I think that's one of our biggest challenges, just gaining acceptance within the community.
On the design side for us specifically, it all has to do with the fun factor of the game. We have to make sure in the creative group that we don't sort of blow where the winds blow. We need microtransactions just because marketing says we do. We're working right now, thankfully, again, we're fairly early on just in the concept and prototype phase, but we're exploring everything. But once we lock in what we want to do, we want to make sure that if we tack on additional models onto the game that we're making right now, that it doesn't break the gameplay just for the sake of, hey, we can get a few more dollars if we release the sparkly gold baseball cap or whatever. We want to make sure that everything that we do keeps the gameplay at the center focus. But yeah, the industry is changing so fast right now around the world. So we'll keep an eye on you guys.
Yes, I mean, I'd echo that. I think that we're seeing, especially in the East, microtransactions have been kind of fairly well accepted. In the West, they're becoming kind of getting into the mind space, and people are beginning to think about them. and they're giving us another option in the way that we bill customers, but it's an option. It's not something like you hear some, like I've heard some people saying like, oh, you know, transaction model is dead, and like, you know, tell Blizzard that. You've got the option. You've got the option to do microtransactions, the option to do subscriptions, the option to mix and match. You know, then it's down to each games company to pick which options fit the game they're creating and the users they're aiming it at, and the player base size they want. Because you don't need to hit everybody. If you can hit a small niche, you know, you sort of pick the level you want to work at, pick the number of subscribers that you know you're happy, or microtransactions that you're you know, sustainable at. And if you can do that and you can turn a good profit without hitting like wow numbers and without using every subscription model under the sun, just to try and suck in as many as possible, if you can hit the right level of sustainability, then you know you're turning a profit.
Jason, did you want to add?
No, I think they covered it.
All right. We're going to move to another question, which I think is a player question, and everyone's fine. And somebody actually asked it earlier in the audience, and it's something I know we've all dealt with. Is the grind, the repetitive play factor of MMOs, and a lot of people look at that as a negative. I'm really curious what you guys think of that, and what you feel is going to change that.
I think grinding is bad. And the key is having real, I mean, this is a very developer-oriented answer, but the key is to have really good development tools and a pipeline so that you can generate lots and lots of high-quality content. And in the past, a way to generate content, although not quite high quality, is to just have a simple grind where you're killing mobs over and over again to level up. And it doesn't necessarily have to be these highly technical innovations to achieve that. And for example, on Lotro, we have a deed system if any play the game, where just adding a simple layer of deeds, which are sort of micro quests that allow you to kill X number of mods, achieve a change of status or title, and then maybe even a stats bonus increase, is enough to change the flavor of repetitive grinding to something that's a little more meaningful and enjoyable. And I think over time, once again, as we bring more customers into the fray, they're not going to tolerate a lot of the nonsense that's plagued the MMO space in the past. You know, we have to be a mainstream entertainment value. And yes, the fact is we have to deliver 1,000 or tens of thousands of hours of content. And that's just too bad. We got to do it, and we got to pay for it, and we got to make it great.
I definitely agree with what's being said, but I also think that one of the things that I've always thought when it comes to the grind is if removing the element of what makes it feel so repetitive. Because if we look at some of the other games that we like to play, you know, like look at all the people that play like Bejeweled, or how many times have you played Tetris? How often does the actual gameplay or the content of Tetris really change itself? It's more about making the actual gameplay experience or the act of what you're doing being what rewards the player. And then we're not as reliant on the fact that they have to have something to consume.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to have, if you're working in a game like an MMO where you're relying on players coming back and paying you your monthly subscription or your microtransactions or whatever, you've got to have something that motivates the players to keep coming back and keep playing. And obviously the leveling up system works in that respect. People like to level up, they like to keep, you know, working towards it and coming back. But it doesn't need to be that system, you know, provided you've got something, whether it's leveling up, or whether it's just having some, you know, core gameplay that people will keep coming back to. I mean, you look at how many people play Counter-Strike, for example, and there's no levels, there's no stats, there's just a very, very tight gameplay mechanic, and people will keep playing that gameplay mechanic ad infinitum because the gameplay's there. And whether you're delivering thousands of hours of content, or whether you're, you know, pushing out some just tweaking your gameplay and whatever, you've got to make sure that people keep coming back and keep playing. But I don't think that means you have to grind. Like people are saying, you can have, you know, basic grind gameplay, you can have more unique content, you can have all these, you know, deeds and stuff. There's different ways of handling, and I think we've got to get away from that thing, because despite the fact that it does bring players in, it seems that they still hate it. They'll keep coming back for it, but they still hate it. Not good for us.
Well, time is the most valuable commodity that any of the gamers have, right? I mean, all of us, we only have a certain number of hours in the day, and if we chase people away, there's plenty of options now.
Jeff, did you want to add something?
I don't know. So I agree with everything that everybody's saying up here, but there's a part to this that's a lot more difficult to talk about, and it's one of these things that I think developers tend to avoid the conversation a little bit. But it's number one, what is grind? What does that mean? And what does a player like to do? Some players really like to sit and just kill monsters all day long. Some players just like to do that. Some players really don't like to do that, and they want to do something new and unique every time they come onto the game. And the challenge is providing something for everyone. And when you talk to, if you polled 10 people in this audience right now and said, what's the grind? Those 10 people would answer 10 different things to you. There would be similarities with everything that they answer, but it's very, very difficult to define it, and it's very, very difficult to say, and this is how we're going to fix it. So I think the key is, and like I said, I agree with everybody up here, providing lots of interesting things to do, providing lots of option for your player, providing tens of thousands of hours of content, and giving the opportunity for the player to play the game they like to play and the way they want to play it is the key. It's like a wise man once asked me, is golf a grind? And you look at that game, and what is the game of golf but hitting the ball in the hole? So is everything else around besides hitting the ball in the hole a grind? Is walking down the fairway a grind, or is a part of the game? Is going to the driving range a grind, or is a part of the game? And the answer is, it's whatever you like to do. Whatever you enjoy the most is the thing that you want to play. And so we want to give you a lot of different options and allow you to play the game the way you want to play it. That's the way we look at it. It's all about fun and giving you a lot of options.
Awesome. That was easy. That's good. I'm going to move to another one, which I think will set the stage for fan questions. And basically, what I want to ask is the changes to MMO gameplay as you guys see it. I mean, right now, we've got several established games up here. You've got games that are coming very in the near future, and you have games that are coming in the far future. What changes to the MMO gameplay template are you excited about and look forward to seeing?
I guess I'm the one on the spot for this. So I think that what we're going to see is I've been asked in the past few years all the time, like, so is Age of Conan going to be the game that topples World of Warcraft? What do you think about World of Warcraft? I think all of us get asked that question all the time. And my favorite answer that I gave people was the fact that World of Warcraft is like perfecting the recipe for vanilla ice cream. And that vanilla ice cream is the most popular ice cream in the world. They're always going to sell more of it than any other flavor. And what I think you're going to see sort of like the MMO space become more diversified. You're going to see a growth of the virtual worlds and whatnot, as like Craig was mentioning, and the casual games. They might be out of the media's eye, but they're huge in representation in what's going on right now. And I think that you're going to see sort of like, if you will, the era of cable television is finally going to come to MMOs. You're going to see stuff being more focused and niche-oriented.
I think another big change, besides the casual play that I think is very important, is that we're the last genre that's not made it over to console in the big way. And that will be an enormous transformation when, and I do believe when, it's successful. There's been some attempts today, but the hardware is now finally powerful enough to pull it off. And that'll change the space significantly. And you saw that, and I've seen I've heard a lot of the naysaying, and I remember these arguments are eerily familiar to when first-person shooters went to Fox. And all it took was Halo and a few others to demonstrate that it indeed was possible. And I think once that happens, you're going to, already an exponentially growing segment of the game space is going to grow even more.
So there's a lot of different opportunities that we have as developers in the MMO space, and they're all right before our eyes as far as small independent developers who are willing to take chances, the guys who have everything to lose and everything to win, who are going to innovate in the space. And yet there's always going to be bigger developers who maybe are not willing to go out quite as on a limb as they will, but maybe who have the resources to perfect a little bit more, or to make evolutionary changes to the games that help to drive the genre forward. And you take all of these kind of different developers who are able to go out on the limb and who aren't, and who are able to evolve, and you put them all together, and that's what's going to drive the genre forward. That's what's been driving it for the past 20 years, if you look from MUDs all the way up to now. And it's just been a slowly evolving process, and it's probably going to keep doing that. And then there'll be little and or maybe big little leaps here and there that somebody will go, oh, that's something new and cool, and every MMO will adopt it from that point on. And we'll continue to evolve the space in that way.
I mean, and this may be a slightly controversial thing to suggest, but the thing I'm most looking forward to in terms of what's going to happen with the MMO template is it just getting thrown out the window. I mean, World of Warcraft is huge, and it's huge because, in no small part, because it's Blizzard, and what Blizzard do is they take something and they polish it to perfection, and it sells like the Jeebus no. You know, Diablo, StarCraft, they do this. But I refuse to believe that the MUD model is the only way to make successful MMO. There's got to be something out there that will just blow WoW out of the water and make it look like small fry. There's got to be that idea that's so big and so revolutionary that just.
Yeah, I agree with that, and I think there's two of them. One is more of an evolutionary change, which I think combat needs to be revisited and become much more action oriented. Now, not for all games, but I think our combat style is still too limiting. And the number two and the big one is user-generated content. I think once you're able to create an MMO where you're able to create your own dungeons and content and then introduce them in-world, and this is a huge technical challenge, and I know actually you guys do it better than most on EVE, I think that'll also change the game quite a bit.
Scott, did you want to add anything?
In a lot of ways, I agree with what the folks are saying. There's, again, the market is growing so. It's going to be so vast, especially by the time our game comes out. A lot of it, at our studio specifically, it's definitely content is king where we are right now. So we're developing our game specifically as a central facet around a much bigger IP. So I don't want to say that we're going to come out and do, the common game, the right down the middle game. There's a lot of stuff that's out there right now that we all love. Going back to what was said about, are you going to topple WoW? We don't want to topple WoW. A lot of us like playing WoW. But that being said, there's a lot of things in that game that I know that I'm sure the guys that worked on it would say, yeah, I could have changed that. We have a lot of folks on our team right now that were part of major MMO teams that didn't get that blank slate to start from. So they're kind of working on legacy stuff already, whereas we're starting from scratch. We're implementing things. All cars have four wheels and a steering wheel, right? So, but my Saturn and R.A. Salvatore's Porsche are completely different cars. I guess that's it.
That was a good one. With that question, I had others, but honestly, I think it's more important for you guys to ask questions. So we're going to open up the microphone. Feel free to step up. Ask these guys anything you want about games, their games, games in general.